Hello and welcome. My name is Regina Hicks, and I'm an employee at Adairsville Elementary School located in the Bartow County School System. I'm also a candidate for the Instructional Technology degree at Kennesaw State University, and this movie is a fulfillment of the requirement for the class Data Analysis and School Improvement, as well as a data overview for employees, faculty, staff, and all stakeholders for Adairsville Elementary. This presentation is to give an overview of findings from CRCT data showing student achievement while looking for patterns that may emerge. This data overview will contain demographic information, CRCT scores from the school years 2011 and 12, 2012 and 13, and 2013 and 14. We will also look at some strengths and some areas of improvement. Let's begin by looking at the student population for Adairsville Elementary School. On the CRCT in 2011-12, we had 532 students enrolled, and in 2013 and 14, we had 562 students enrolled. This shows a tremendous amount of growth between those years. The group of students at Adairsville Elementary School is prominently white, being 81%. There's also a subgroup of Black and Hispanic students. See by the data, Adairsville Elementary School is a Title I school with 64% of students being eligible for free and reduced meals. Other subgroups that we have are limited English proficient, student with disabilities, those that are in the EIP program, special ed, and gifted. We've looked at our demographics and subgroups. Let's get to a little bit of data from the CRCT comparison. This slide shows the difference between males and females, which has been some conversation for a time for us. When you look, you'll note that for ELA, 90% of the males meet or exceed, and 92% of the females meet or exceed. And in math, 90% of the males meet or exceed standard, while 92% of the females meet or exceed standard. In reading, 96% of the males meet or exceed standard, and 94% of the females meet or exceed standard. In science, the percentage drops a little bit. It's 86% males meeting or exceeding, with 93% females that meet or exceed. And then going to social studies, that drops still again just a little bit to 84% males meeting or exceeding, with 85% females meeting or exceeding. An interesting fact to note about this slide is that more females exceed in meeting standard in math and reading, while more boys exceed in science and social studies. Looking at our demographic CRCT results, a few interesting things emerge. First of all, we have a very good strength in reading. We have a weakness in social studies, and our Hispanic population struggle in science. When looking at reading, 91% of our Black population meet or exceed standard in reading. Our white population, 97% meet or exceed, and our multiracial population, 94% meet or exceed, and in our Hispanic population, 75% meet or exceed. It also shows that our Hispanic students struggle in many of their areas of academics. Looking at our subgroup results, it's interesting to note for our economically disadvantaged students that they don't have a significant weakness. Social studies, 70% or more meet or exceed the standard, while in science, 75% meet or exceed. In reading, 93% meet or exceed. In math, 82% meet or exceed. And in ELA, 92% meet or exceed. This tells us that our reading and strategies that we try and use in reading is working with this population. One area that we can improve on is in social studies. Subgroup CRCT results are the students with disabilities. And looking at this slide, the strength for this group is reading with 78% that meet or exceed, followed by ELA at 76% that meet or exceed. Then math, 63% meet or exceed. In science, we look at 58% meeting or exceeding. And it's interesting to note that in science, you have the same amount that do not meet that do meet, as well as in social studies, the same amount meet that do not meet. It appears that social studies is a weakness for this subgroup. When our subgroup CRCT results, our next subgroup is our limited English proficient students. And in this, we see that there is a weakness in science and social studies. In science, 50% of students met or exceeded standard, while 50% did not in science. In social studies, 57% of students exceeded or met in social studies. In ELA, 64% met or exceeded, while in math, 61% met or exceeded. Reading is a strength for this subgroup, and they have 78% that have met or exceeded the standard in reading. Looking at a CRCT results for Adairsville Elementary, including all subgroups, our strength is reading. 95% of our students met or exceeded standard in reading, followed by ELA, where 94% of students met or exceeded. Then math, 92% met or exceeded, while in science, 85% met or exceeded, and in social studies, 84% have met or exceeded. This shows that science and social studies are two areas of improvement for our school. We compare to the state and district in CRCT scores. When looking at the scores, we mirror the scores in English Language Arts. In math, we are comparable to the district, but slightly higher than the state. In reading, we're slightly higher than the state, but slightly lower than the district. In science, we're slightly higher than the state and the district. And in social studies, we're slightly lower than the district, but slightly higher than the state. This shows that our students are achieving comparable to the district and state levels. Observations that can be made about the data is that AES achievement is comparable to that of Bartow County school system achievement. 42.1% of our students with disabilities do not meet standard in social studies, while 44.7% of our students with disabilities do not meet standard in science. 50% of our limited English proficient students did not meet standard in science, while 42.9% of our limited English proficient students did not meet standard in social studies, and 50% of our Hispanic population did not meet standard in science. So what are our strengths and improvements at Adairsville Elementary School? Our strengths tend to be in reading, math, ELA, and we're slightly above the state in science and social studies. Improvements that we can work on are science and social studies in our subgroups. Some questions for us to ponder or to think about. What is making our subgroups not do better in science? And what's causing the subgroups to not meet standard in social studies? Let's discuss and think about some strategies that we can use in science and social studies to help our subgroups meet standard. Hopefully this data overview gives you a clearer picture as to how our students were achieving in 2013 and 2014.